Hello, this is Inspector David. Everyone who entered that place died in a different way. If my information is right, you're next.
Make it quick. Dude, give me 1 minute. Yo. Daniel?
Part 1. The Road That Never Lets Go. Tyler always believed that freedom existed somewhere beyond the horizon. That was the reason he bought the van. That was the reason he convinced Maddie to leave everything behind. No office, no rent, no deadlines, just roads, endless roads. For nearly a year, the two of them had traveled across the country, documenting their adventures online and living the kind of life most people only dreamed about. But dreams have a way of hiding cracks beneath the surface, and Tyler and Maddie's dream was already breaking apart. The signs were subtle at first. Small arguments, long silences, questions about the future neither wanted to answer. Maddie worried they were running from real life instead of building one. Tyler insisted they were finally living. Neither realized that before this trip ended, survival would become more important than happiness. The night everything changed began with rain. Heavy rain, the kind that turns a highway into a tunnel of darkness, the kind that makes every passing mile feel isolated from the rest of the world. The van moved through a remote mountain road, hundreds of miles from the nearest city. Trees lined both sides of the highway. Dense forests, no houses, no lights, no signs of civilization. Only darkness. Tyler focused on driving, while Maddie watched the rain strike the windshield. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. The road felt too quiet, too empty. No other vehicles had appeared for almost 40 minutes. No trucks, no travelers, nobody. Have we seen a single car in the last hour? She asked. Tyler shrugged. Probably just a quiet road. Maddie looked out the side window. The forest seemed endless. Black, silent, watching. Then she noticed something ahead. A figure standing beside the road. At first, she thought it was a road sign. Then lightning flashed. The figure became visible. A woman wearing a white dress, standing perfectly still in the rain. Tyler saw her too. What the hell? The woman didn't wave, didn't move, didn't react. She simply stood there, staring toward the road. Toward them. Maddie immediately felt uneasy. No normal person would stand alone in the middle of nowhere during a storm. Keep driving, she said. Tyler slowed slightly. Maybe she needs help. Tyler, her voice carried genuine fear. Something about the woman felt wrong. Not dangerous. Wrong, as if she didn't belong there. The van continued forward. For a brief moment, their headlights illuminated the woman's face. Her expression remained completely blank. No emotion, no reaction, just empty eyes following the vehicle as it passed. Then she vanished into the darkness behind them. Neither spoke for several minutes. Both kept thinking about her. Both wished they hadn't seen her. Then the accident happened. A sharp curve appeared ahead. Tyler turned the wheel. The headlights swept across the road and suddenly revealed twisted metal. A vehicle sat sideways across part of the highway. Destroyed, the front end crushed beyond recognition. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Tyler slammed the brakes. The van skidded slightly before stopping. For several seconds, they stared in disbelief. The accident looked recent, very recent. Call emergency services. Maddie grabbed her phone. No signal, not even one bar. Tyler checked his. Nothing. The storm had isolated them completely. Against Maddie's wishes, Tyler grabbed a flashlight. We have to check. The rain soaked them immediately. The crash scene looked even worse up close. Broken glass covered the road. Pieces of metal littered the shoulder. The vehicle itself looked like it had been ripped apart. Not crushed, ripped, as if something unimaginably powerful had torn through it. Then Tyler found the claw marks. 3 deep grooves carved into the metal. Long, straight, precise. They didn't resemble damage from an accident. They looked deliberate. Maddie stared at them. What could do that? Tyler had no answer. The flashlight beam moved across the wreck. No bodies, no driver, no passengers, nothing, which made no sense. Someone should have been there. Then they heard a sound. A woman's voice. Weak, distant, coming from the forest. Help. Tyler turned instantly. There. The voice came again. Please. Maddie grabbed his arm. Don't. The forest beyond the road looked impossibly dark. The flashlight barely penetrated the trees. Yet the voice continued, always the same distance away. Never closer, never farther, almost like it wanted them to follow. Tyler took a step toward the woods, then stopped. Something felt wrong. The voice repeated again, exactly the same. Same tone, same pause, same rhythm, like a recording. Then a second voice joined it. Male this time. Help. Maddie's blood turned cold. The two voices overlapped. Then a third appeared. A child, all repeating the same plea. Help me. The forest fell silent. For one horrible second, nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Then Tyler noticed a shape standing between the trees. Tall, thin, watching. The flashlight flickered. The figure vanished. That was enough. The couple ran back to the van. Doors slammed shut. Tyler turned the key. Nothing happened. The engine wouldn't start. Again, nothing. The dashboard lights flickered weakly, then died. The van was completely dead. Outside, the storm intensified. Thunder rolled through the mountains, and somewhere in the darkness, beyond the road, something was moving. Hours passed. The van remained stranded. Neither Tyler nor Maddie slept. The accident scene sat visible through the windshield, silent, waiting. At around 2 in the morning, the radio suddenly activated by itself. Static filled the cabin. Tyler jumped. The radio had no power. The van itself had no power. Yet the speakers crackled loudly. A voice emerged. Female. Soft. Calm. Familiar. The woman in white. Tyler. His entire body froze. Maddie stared at the radio. The voice continued. You shouldn't have stopped. Static swallowed the signal. Then silence returned. Neither spoke, because they both understood. Whatever they had encountered on that road had followed them, and it already knew their names. Part 2. The thing riding with them. The voice vanished. The radio fell silent, but neither Tyler nor Maddie moved. The words continued echoing inside the van. You shouldn't have stopped. Outside, rain hammered against the windows. The wrecked vehicle remained visible through the darkness, motionless, waiting, and for the first time that night, Tyler realized something terrifying. The woman hadn't simply known they were there. She knew his name. Neither of them had spoken it. Not at the crash scene, not on the road, not anywhere outside the van. Yet somehow she knew. Maddie sat frozen in her seat. Her eyes remained locked on the radio. Did that really happen? Tyler wanted to tell her no. He wanted to blame exhaustion, stress, fear, anything, but he couldn't, because he heard it too. The voice had been real. The storm continued through the night. Sleep never came. Every sound outside felt threatening. Every shadow seemed alive. At one point, Maddie thought she saw movement beyond the crash site. A silhouette standing beside the wreck. watching when lightning flashed again. Nothing was there. Then around 3 in the morning, something even stranger happened. The temperature inside the van suddenly dropped. Not gradually, instantly. One moment, the air felt normal. The next, it felt freezing. Both of them noticed it. Their breath became visible. Frost appeared along the edges of the windows. Tyler frowned. How is that possible? The van wasn't running. Neither was the air conditioning. Yet the cold kept growing stronger. Then came the smell. Wet earth, rotting leaves, forest air, as if someone had opened every door. But the van remained sealed, locked, closed. Maddie slowly turned toward the rear of the vehicle. The darkness there felt different, heavier, like something occupied the space. Tyler followed her gaze. Nothing, yet the feeling remained. Someone else was inside, watching them, waiting. Then the rear suspension shifted slightly. A soft creak, as though extra weight had suddenly been added. Tyler's heart stopped. The sound came from directly behind them. Maddie whispered, "Don't turn around." But Tyler already was. Slowly, carefully, the rear compartment remained empty. Blankets, storage bins, camping equipment, nothing else. Yet the cold continued growing stronger. And somewhere behind them, a woman quietly laughed. The sound lasted only a second, then disappeared. Tyler lunged toward the back of the van. Nothing, no person, no intruder, no explanation, only silence. The passenger had entered the van. Morning finally arrived. The storm moved on. Sunlight pushed away the darkness. For a brief moment, everything felt normal again. The temperature returned to normal. The radio stopped working. The laughter disappeared. Tyler turned the ignition. The engine started immediately, as if nothing had ever been wrong. Neither spoke about the previous night. Neither wanted to. The crash scene remained behind them as they continued down the highway. For the first hour, everything seemed fine. Then Tyler checked the rearview mirror and saw the woman sitting in the back. White dress, wet hair, motionless, watching. He nearly swerved off the road. Maddie turned instantly. The seat was empty. Again, the woman only appeared in reflections. Mirrors, glass, windows, never directly, always where she shouldn't be. The rest of the day became a nightmare. Every reflective surface revealed glimpses of her. Store windows, bathroom mirrors, car mirrors, even puddles, always watching, always closer. And every time Tyler looked directly, she vanished. That afternoon, they reached a small roadside town. The place looked ordinary enough. A gas station, a diner, a motel, a handful of homes. The first real signs of civilization they'd seen in hours. Maddie felt relieved. Finally, they weren't alone. Maybe everything could be explained. Maybe the isolation was affecting their minds. Maybe the moment they entered the diner, everyone inside stopped talking. Every customer looked toward them, not hostile, not curious, afraid. Tyler noticed immediately. People stared for a few seconds, then quickly looked away. Nobody wanted eye contact. Nobody wanted conversation. The atmosphere felt wrong. The waitress approached slowly. An older woman named Helen. Her smile looked forced. Nervous. "What can I get you?" Tyler ordered coffee. Maddie ordered tea. The waitress nodded, then paused. Her eyes moved toward the van parked outside. Her face immediately changed. The smile disappeared. Fear replaced it. "What happened to your van?" Tyler frowned. "What do you mean?" The woman pointed through the window. Both turned and immediately froze. 3 claw marks stretched across the side of the vehicle. Longer than before. Much longer. Almost 6 feet in length. Fresh. The metal around them looked twisted, damaged, like something had carved into it during the drive. Neither Tyler nor Maddie had heard anything. The waitress slowly stepped backward. "Leave." Tyler blinked. "What?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Leave town." The fear in her eyes looked genuine. Right now, before either could respond, she walked away, refusing to say another word. The other customers avoided looking at them. One man quietly paid his bill and left. Another abandoned his meal. Within 10 minutes, the diner was almost empty. Tyler and Maddie sat in stunned silence. Then an elderly man entered. The moment he saw the claw marks on the van, his face turned pale. He immediately approached their table. "How long has it been following you?" Neither answered. The old man's expression darkened. "You saw the accident." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Tyler felt cold. "How do you know that?" The man pulled out a chair, then sat down. "My name is Walter." He looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept properly in years. And the first thing he said changed everything. "You picked up a passenger." Walter explained that strange things had been happening along these highways for decades. Disappearances, fatal crashes, entire families vanishing without explanation. The stories always began the same way. Someone witnessed an accident. Someone stopped to help. Then something followed them home. Most people called it a ghost. Others called it a demon. Walter disagreed. "It's a passenger." Tyler frowned. "What does that mean?" Walter looked toward the window, toward the van, then answered quietly. "It rides with people." The old man's hands trembled slightly. "It doesn't attack immediately. It travels. It watches. It learns." The diner suddenly felt much colder. Walter continued. "First it appears around you. Then it appears near you. Eventually," he stopped speaking. Maddie finished the sentence. "It appears inside you." Walter nodded. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Tyler asked the question that terrified him most. What happens then? The old man's eyes filled with sadness. You stop being the driver. That evening, Walter brought them to a small cabin outside town. According to him, it was the safest place available, though even he didn't sound convinced. The cabin sat deep within the woods, far from roads, far from people, far from mirrors. At least that was the idea. Walter spent hours explaining everything he knew. Most of it sounded impossible. The passenger wasn't tied to locations. It wasn't attached to objects. It attached itself to people, specifically people who encountered death at the wrong moment. Something about witnessing the crash created a connection, a doorway, and now the entity was using it. Tyler refused to believe most of it. Maddie wanted to, because every strange event pointed toward the same conclusion. Something supernatural was happening. That night, they stayed in separate rooms. Tyler couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the woman standing beside the road, watching, waiting. Eventually, exhaustion won, and he drifted into sleep. Immediately, he found himself back on the highway. The storm had returned. Rain poured from the sky. The crash scene stood ahead, exactly as before. But this time, the wrecked vehicle wasn't empty. A woman sat inside. The woman in white. She slowly turned toward him and smiled. Then she spoke. For the first time, Tyler heard her true voice. Not the radio voice, not the whisper, something deeper, older, hungry. I've been riding alone for a very long time. The woman opened the passenger side door, then pointed toward the empty seat beside her and smiled wider. Sit with me. Tyler woke up screaming, covered in sweat, his heart racing. The cabin was dark, silent, except for one thing, a soft knocking sound coming from inside the wall beside his bed. Knock, knock, knock. Then a woman's voice whispered from the darkness, a voice he now knew all too well. I'm already inside. Part 3. The Marked. Tyler didn't move. The whisper still echoed through the cabin. I'm already inside. For several seconds, he sat frozen on the edge of the bed. The knocking stopped. The voice vanished. Silence returned. Yet the feeling remained. The passenger wasn't outside anymore. It was getting closer. Much closer. Tyler grabbed a flashlight and rushed into the hallway. The cabin was dark, empty. Walter's room stood open. No sign of the old man. No movement. Nothing. Then Tyler heard another sound. A scream. Maddie. He sprinted toward her room. The door burst open. Maddie sat upright in bed, breathing heavily, tears in her eyes. She looked terrified. Tyler immediately sat beside her. What happened? For several moments, she couldn't answer. Then finally she spoke. I saw her Tyler felt his stomach tighten. The woman. Maddie nodded. She wasn't alone. The room suddenly felt colder. What do you mean? Maddie stared at the floor, trying to remember, trying to understand. There were others. Tyler frowned. Others. She nodded again. People, dozens of them, standing behind her. The image sent chills through him. Maddie continued. They all looked dead. Neither slept for the rest of the night. Morning arrived beneath gray skies. The storm had passed, but the fear remained. Walter listened carefully as they described what happened. Unlike before, he didn't seem surprised. He looked worried, very worried. Then he asked a strange question. Have either of you lost time yet? Tyler frowned. What? Walter repeated himself. Lost time. Missing memories. Moments you can't explain. Neither answered immediately. Then Maddie's expression changed. Slowly, almost reluctantly. I think so. The room fell silent. Walter looked away, as though he already knew the answer. Maddie's hands trembled. Yesterday, Tyler turned toward her. What? She swallowed hard. When we stopped for gas. Tyler nodded. I remember. Maddie shook her head. No, you remember. I don't. Tyler stared at her, confused. The gas station stop had happened less than 24 hours earlier. How could she forget? Maddie's voice grew quieter. I remember arriving. I remember leaving. But everything in between. Her eyes filled with fear. It's gone. Walter slowly closed his eyes. The old man looked exhausted, defeated. The passenger is marking you. Later that day, Walter finally revealed the truth about himself. For nearly 20 years, he had been hiding something. A secret, one he never shared with anyone. Not even the people who disappeared before Tyler and Maddie arrived. The old man wasn't merely studying the passenger. He was a survivor. Its first survivor. Decades earlier, Walter had been driving home through the same mountains, the same road, the same storm, the same crash. Everything happened exactly as it had for Tyler and Maddie. The accident, the voices, the woman, the claw marks, even the radio message. All of it. Walter survived because someone sacrificed themselves for him. A stranger, someone already marked, someone already doomed. Tyler listened carefully. What happened to them? Walter stared through the window, toward the forest. They became part of it. Nobody spoke, because they already understood what he meant. The passenger didn't simply kill people. It collected them. That afternoon, Maddie began noticing strange things. At first, they seemed harmless. Minor details. Objects appearing in different places. Doors left open. Items she didn't remember moving. She blamed stress, exhaustion, fear. Then things became impossible to ignore. Around noon, she found muddy footprints inside the cabin. bare footprints, wet, fresh. They began near the front door, then disappeared abruptly in the hallway, as though the person simply ceased existing. Walter saw them too. His expression immediately darkened. The barrier is weakening. Tyler frowned. What barrier? Walter looked toward Maddie, the one between her and it. Nobody liked the sound of that. That evening, they drove into town again. Walter believed they needed supplies. Food, fuel, batteries, things that might help them survive. The town looked different now. Quieter, more frightened. Several businesses were closed. Windows boarded up. People avoided eye contact. Word had spread. The passenger was back. Tyler noticed it immediately. The townspeople weren't afraid of him. They were afraid of Maddie. People stared whenever she walked by. One woman even crossed the street to avoid her. Eventually, Maddie couldn't take it anymore. She approached an elderly shopkeeper. Why is everyone looking at me? The woman hesitated, then reluctantly answered, because of your shadow. Maddie froze. My shadow? The shopkeeper nodded, fear visible in her eyes. Look. Maddie slowly turned. The afternoon sun stretched shadows across the pavement. Tyler's shadow looked normal. Walter's shadow looked normal. But Maddie's didn't. It moved. Not dramatically. Not obviously. Just enough. A slight delay. A fraction of a second. Like something else occupied the darkness. Watching, learning, waiting. Maddie immediately stepped backward. Her shadow copied the movement. A moment later, not at the same time. The difference was tiny, yet horrifying. Walter immediately ushered her away. Nobody spoke until they returned to the cabin. That night, things became worse. Much worse. Around midnight, Tyler woke, suddenly. Something felt wrong. The cabin seemed unusually quiet. No wind, no insects, no sounds at all. The silence felt unnatural. Then he noticed Maddie's bedroom door standing open. Empty. His heart stopped. Tyler rushed into the hallway. Maddie. No answer. He checked every room. Nothing. The cabin was empty. Walter was gone too. Panic flooded through him. Then he noticed footprints outside. 2 sets. One belonged to Maddie. The other, bare feet. Tyler grabbed a flashlight and followed them into the woods. The forest looked completely different at night. Endless shadows, twisted branches, blackness between trees. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. Instead, he continued deeper. The footprints led toward an abandoned church hidden among the trees. The building looked ancient, rotting, forgotten, its windows broken, its roof partially collapsed. Yet candlelight flickered inside. Tyler approached carefully, then heard voices, dozens of voices, whispering together. He moved closer and froze. The church was full. not with living people, with figures, pale figures, standing silently between the pews. Men, women, children, all staring toward the altar. None moved, none blinked, none breathed, and standing at the front was the woman in white, the passenger. For the first time, Tyler saw her clearly. She looked almost human. Almost. Something about her face remained wrong. Too perfect. Too still. Like a mask. Then Tyler noticed Maddie. She stood beside the altar, motionless, eyes closed. The passenger gently touched her forehead and smiled. Tyler rushed forward. Immediately, every figure inside the church turned toward him simultaneously. Hundreds of eyes, hundreds of faces, watching. The passenger smiled wider, then spoke. "You're early." The voice sounded calm, friendly, almost welcoming. Tyler grabbed Maddie and pulled her backward. She suddenly woke, confused, disoriented. The pale figures remained motionless, watching. The passenger stepped forward. One slow step, then another. Tyler noticed something horrifying. The closer she moved, the less human she appeared. Her skin seemed to ripple. Her face shifted, changing, becoming something older, something impossible. The smile stretched wider than human anatomy allowed. Then the church lights exploded. Every candle went out. Darkness consumed everything. Screams echoed around them. Tyler grabbed Maddie and ran. Neither looked back. The forest blurred around them. Branches whipped across their faces. The church disappeared behind the trees. Yet the passenger's voice followed. Everywhere. Above them. Behind them. Inside their heads. "You already belong to me." When they finally reached the cabin, Walter was waiting. He looked terrified, not surprised, terrified, as though he expected this, as though something worse had happened. Tyler immediately confronted him. "You knew." Walter didn't deny it. The old man's face looked pale, exhausted, broken. Then he revealed the truth. The church wasn't abandoned. Not really. The passenger used it. For decades, every victim eventually ended up there. Every marked traveler, every missing person, every vanished soul. The church served one purpose: collection. Tyler stared at him. "What does it collect?" Walter's answer barely rose above a whisper. "Passengers." Silence followed. Then Maddie suddenly spoke. For the first time in nearly an hour, her voice sounded different, subtly different, almost like another voice overlapped beneath it. "What if they're not prisoners?" Walter froze. Tyler looked toward her. Maddie slowly smiled, a smile she had never smiled before. Then she whispered, "What if they're the crew?" The room went silent. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Because for a brief second, Maddie's eyes weren't her own. And somewhere far away, The passenger left. Part 4. The Road of the Dead. For several seconds after Maddie spoke, nobody moved. The cabin felt frozen in time. Tyler stared at her. Walter stared at her. And Maddie simply sat there smiling. That smile wasn't normal. It wasn't Maddie's smile. It was too calm, too knowing, too familiar. The exact same smile the woman in white always wore. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. Maddie blinked, confused. What? Tyler's heart pounded. What do you mean, what? Maddie looked between them. You both look like you've seen a ghost. Walter slowly backed away. His face had gone pale. What do you remember? Maddie frowned. Remember from what? The church. The moment Walter said the word, Maddie's expression changed. Fear returned instantly. She remembered the church, the candles, the figures, the woman, but she didn't remember speaking. She didn't remember smiling. And she definitely didn't remember saying, "What if they're the crew?" The realization terrified her. Something was happening inside her mind, something she couldn't control, and it was getting stronger. Nobody slept that night. Walter locked every door, covered every mirror, closed every curtain. The old man moved through the cabin like someone preparing for war. Tyler finally confronted him. You know more than you're telling us. Walter didn't answer. Tell me what this thing is. Still nothing. Tyler stepped closer. You owe us that. The old man looked exhausted, as if he'd carried this secret for decades. Then finally he spoke. The passenger isn't one thing. Tyler frowned. What does that mean? Walter stared toward the darkness outside. It's many things. Silence filled the room. The old man took a deep breath, then continued. Most people think they're seeing a ghost, a demon, a monster. He shook his head. They're wrong. Tyler listened carefully. The woman in white isn't the passenger. Cold fear ran through the room. What? Walter nodded slowly. She's only the face it chooses to wear. Nobody liked the sound of that. Not even a little. Around dawn, they left the cabin. Walter insisted they couldn't stay. The passenger knew where they were. Remaining in one place would only make things worse. So they packed what little they had and returned to the road. The same road. The endless highway stretching through forests and mountains. The moment the van began moving, Tyler noticed something strange. The GPS no longer worked. Every route disappeared. Every map failed. The screen displayed only static. Then one phrase appeared, over and over again. Keep driving. Tyler immediately unplugged the device. The message remained. The screen wasn't receiving a signal, yet the words continued blinking. Keep driving. Keep driving. Keep driving. Maddie turned away. She couldn't bear looking at it. Something about those words felt familiar, like she'd heard them before, somewhere, in a dream or a memory. Then she realized where. The accident, the woman, the road, the same feeling, the same voice. The passenger wanted them moving, always moving, always traveling, always becoming passengers. Hours later, they reached a section of highway Walter had spent years avoiding. The old man's hands tightened around the dashboard. His face looked nervous. Tyler noticed immediately. "What is it?" Walter hesitated, then answered quietly. "This is where I lost them." The van fell silent. Tyler knew exactly who he meant. His family. Walter had mentioned them briefly before. Never in detail. Never by name. Now Tyler understood why. The memories still haunted him. Walter stared out the window. 20 years ago, I drove this road with my wife and daughter. Nobody spoke. The old man's voice trembled slightly. The passenger chose us. Maddie looked toward him. What happened? Walter swallowed hard. For a long moment, he couldn't answer. Then finally, I survived. The way he said it sounded more like guilt than relief. The road ahead curved through dense forest. The sky darkened unexpectedly. Storm clouds gathered again. The exact same kind of storm from the accident, almost as if the weather itself was following them. Then something appeared ahead. A vehicle parked in the middle of the highway. Tyler slowed immediately. The car looked old, abandoned. Its driver's door stood open. Walter's face drained of color. "No," Tyler frowned. "What?" The old man pointed. The vehicle ahead wasn't random. It was his. The exact same car from 20 years earlier, waiting on the road, untouched by time. Impossible. Tyler stopped several yards away. Nobody wanted to get out. Nobody wanted to go closer. Yet they all knew they had to. Walter stepped out first. The old man looked like he was walking toward his own grave. Slowly, carefully, the others followed. The closer they got, the worse it became. Everything looked exactly as Walter remembered. The same dents, the same broken windshield, even the same suitcase in the back seat, frozen in time, like the last 20 years never happened. Walter reached the driver's door. His hands trembled. Then he looked inside and screamed. Tyler rushed forward. Inside the vehicle sat a woman, Walter's wife, exactly as she looked 20 years ago. Not aged, not decomposed, not dead, simply sitting there, waiting. Her eyes slowly opened. The old man stumbled backward. "No," the woman smiled, a familiar smile, the passenger's smile. Then she spoke. "Why did you leave us?" Walter collapsed. The years of guilt hit him all at once. Tyler immediately understood. Walter never escaped the passenger. The passenger escaped with him. For 2 decades, it had fed on his grief, his regret, his fear. The woman stepped out of the car. Slowly, gracefully, her movements felt unnatural, like a puppet learning how to walk. Then another figure appeared in the back seat. A little girl, Walter's daughter. She looked exactly like the photographs, exactly like the memories. The old man broke down completely. Tears filled his eyes. For a moment, he forgot everything. Forgot the danger. Forgot the passenger. Forgot reality itself. All he saw was his family. And that's exactly what the passenger wanted. The little girl extended her hand. "Come with us, Daddy." Walter stepped forward. Tyler grabbed him immediately. "No." The old man struggled. "They're alive." "No, they're not. They nudged me." Tyler held him tighter. The little girl smiled wider. Then something changed. Her face twisted, subtly at first, then horribly, eyes stretching, skin splitting, jaw opening too far. The illusion shattered. The child wasn't a child anymore. It never was. Walter finally saw the truth and screamed. The road exploded with movement. Dozens of figures emerged from the forest. Pale figures, silent figures, the same people Tyler saw inside the church. The missing passengers, hundreds of them, watching, waiting, the road of the dead. Tyler, Maddie, and Walter ran. The figures followed, not quickly, not aggressively. They simply walked, yet somehow always remained close, no matter how fast the survivors moved. The dead passengers filled both sides of the highway. Thousands of empty eyes watching. Thousands of silent faces. Then Maddie stopped suddenly. Tyler turned. Maddie. She wasn't looking at the figures. She was staring into the woods. Something hidden among the trees had caught her attention. Then she whispered, "I can hear them." Tyler felt cold. Hear who? The passengers. Fear spread across Walter's face. Maddie's eyes looked distant. Lost. "They're talking to me." The figures along the road slowly turned toward her. Every single one, as though they heard the same thing. Then Maddie smiled. That same smile again. The smile that wasn't hers. And quietly said, "They want me to see the chamber." Walter immediately. Part 5. The chamber below. The words hung in the cold night air. "It's finally ready for us." Tyler stared at Maddie. For a moment, she looked normal. Completely normal. The same woman he had traveled across the country with. The same woman he planned to marry. But her eyes told a different story. Something lived behind them now. Something ancient. Something patient. And worst of all, something was winning. The pale figures standing among the trees slowly disappeared into the darkness. One by one, without a sound, without a trace, as if they had never been there at all. Tyler immediately grabbed Maddie's hand. "We're leaving." She didn't resist, but she didn't agree either. She simply followed, like someone walking through a dream. Back inside the ranger station, Walter was already awake. The old man looked exhausted. He hadn't truly slept in years, not since the passenger entered his life. The moment he saw Maddie's expression, his face darkened. How bad? Tyler didn't hesitate. She's hearing them. Walter closed his eyes, as though hoping the words weren't real. But he already knew. The passenger had entered its final stage. For hours, nobody spoke. Rain tapped softly against the roof. Wind moved through the trees. The darkness outside seemed alive. Eventually, Tyler broke the silence. What happens in the chamber? Walter looked away. The old man clearly didn't want to answer. But there was no point hiding the truth anymore. The chamber is where the change becomes permanent. Tyler felt cold. What change? Walter's voice barely rose above a whisper. The passenger stops riding. The room became silent. Nobody liked where this conversation was going. Walter continued. Most people think the passenger possesses people. He shook his head. That's not what it does. Tyler frowned. Then what? The old man's answer chilled the room. It replaces them. The words hit Tyler like a punch. Replace them, not control them, not influence them. Replace them. He looked toward Maddie. She sat quietly near the window, listening, watching, almost detached from the conversation. Walter continued. The person slowly disappears. The passenger takes their memories, their fears, their emotions, their identity. Tyler felt his stomach tighten. And then, Walter stared toward Maddie. Then there's nothing left to save. The silence that followed felt unbearable. Tyler refused to believe it. There had to be another way. There had to be. But Walter's face suggested otherwise. The old man had spent 20 years searching for answers, and 20 years finding none. Just before dawn, they returned to the church. None of them wanted to, but the passenger was already guiding them there. The closer they got, the worse Maddie's condition became. She spoke less, moved differently. Sometimes she stopped walking entirely, as if listening to voices nobody else could hear. The church appeared through the trees. Dark, broken, ancient, yet somehow it felt more alive than ever. The front doors stood open, waiting, inviting them inside. Walter stopped. Fear filled his face. Tyler noticed immediately. You've been here before. The old man didn't answer. Tyler stepped closer. You've seen the chamber. Walter finally nodded. The truth came out slowly, painfully, 20 years earlier. After losing his family, Walter had entered the chamber himself. The passenger chose him, marked him, prepared him, just like Maddie. Tyler stared in disbelief. Then how did you escape? Walter's eyes filled with guilt. The answer took several seconds. Finally, he whispered, Someone took my place. The realization hit Tyler immediately. Walter hadn't beat the passenger. Someone else sacrificed themselves for him. Someone else became the vessel. Someone else was lost forever. Walter had survived because another victim died. The old man had carried that guilt for 20 years, and now history was repeating itself. They entered the church. The interior looked different than before. The candles were already lit, hundreds of them. Their flames flickered without wind, without movement, without explanation. The pews stood empty. No pale figures, no passengers, no woman in white, just silence. Then Maddie began walking, slowly, purposefully, toward the altar. Tyler immediately followed. Maddie, no response. Maddie, still nothing. She reached the altar and placed her hand upon it. The ancient wood shuddered. A deep rumble echoed beneath the floor. Then the altar moved, sliding aside, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The chamber. Tyler felt his pulse quicken. Walter looked terrified. The old man whispered something beneath his breath. A prayer, or perhaps an apology. Then they descended. The staircase seemed endless. Step after step, downward, deeper beneath the earth. The air grew colder, heavier. The walls looked ancient, far older than the church above. Eventually, the stairs ended, and the chamber revealed itself. Tyler immediately understood why Walter feared it. The room was enormous, much larger than should have been possible. Stone pillars stretched into darkness. Ancient symbols covered every surface. Thousands of names carved into the walls. Thousands. The missing passengers. Every victim. Every soul collected by the passenger. For generations, perhaps centuries, at the center of the chamber stood a black stone structure. Not quite a throne, not quite an altar, something between the two. And seated upon it was the woman in white, waiting, smiling. For the first time, she looked completely solid, completely real, no longer a distant apparition, no longer a reflection. She sat calmly upon the black stone, watching them approach. Then she spoke. "Welcome." Her voice echoed throughout the chamber, not loud, yet impossible to ignore. Tyler stepped forward. "What are you?" The woman smiled, a sad smile, almost sympathetic. "You ask the wrong question." Tyler clenched his fists. "Then answer the right one." The woman tilted her head. For a moment, she seemed amused. Then she looked toward Maddie and answered, "I am what remains." Silence. Nobody understood. Not completely. The woman continued. Every traveler leaves something behind. Fear, regret, pain, loss. Her smile widened slightly. "I collect those pieces." The chamber suddenly felt colder. Walter stared at her. "You feed on them." The woman laughed softly. "Feed?" She shook her head. "No." Then her eyes moved toward the walls, toward the thousands of names, toward the countless passengers. "I preserve them." The room trembled. candles throughout the chamber suddenly ignited brighter. The shadows twisted across the walls, and the truth finally emerged. The passenger wasn't merely a demon. It wasn't merely a ghost. It was something older, something born from countless deaths, countless fears, countless tragedies. Every victim became part of it. Every soul added another voice, another memory, another fragment. The passenger wasn't one being. It was many, a collection, a living archive of lost travelers. And now it wanted Maddie. The woman stood, slowly, gracefully. The chamber darkened immediately. Then the pale figures appeared, hundreds of them, emerging from the shadows. The missing passengers, the collected souls, watching silently, waiting. The woman approached Maddie. Tyler stepped between them. No, the woman stopped. Her smile remained unchanged. You cannot stop this. Tyler refused to move. Watch me. For the first time, the woman's expression shifted. Not anger, not hatred, pity. You still believe she is here. The words hit him hard, because part of him already feared otherwise. The woman gently pointed toward Maddie. Ask her. Tyler turned. Maddie stood motionless, silent, watching. He approached carefully. Maddie. No answer. Maddie, look at me. Slowly she raised her eyes, and Tyler felt his heart break. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The woman he loved was still there, somewhere, but distant, fading, like a signal, disappearing into static. Then Maddie smiled, the passenger's smile, and quietly said, I remember everything now. The room fell silent. Tyler felt cold. What? Maddie's eyes filled with strange understanding. Memories. Thousands of memories. None of them hers. I remember every road, every accident, every passenger. Her voice echoed strangely, as if many voices spoke beneath it. The chamber trembled again. The transformation had begun. Walter stepped backward, defeated, because he knew what came next. The final stage, the replacement, and unless something changed, Maddie would never leave the chamber, at least not as herself. The woman in white slowly extended her hand. Maddie reached toward it, and Tyler realized the horrifying truth. The passenger hadn't been hunting them. It had been choosing, and from the very beginning, it had chosen Maddie. Part 6. Final destination. The chamber trembled. Ancient stone groaned beneath the earth. Thousands of carved names seemed to shift in the candlelight. Every wall, every pillar, every surface covered with the names of lost travelers, lost passengers, lost souls, and standing at the center of it all was Maddie, or at least what remained of her. The woman in white extended her hand. Maddie slowly reached toward it. Neither appeared frightened. Neither appeared uncertain. It looked like destiny, like two pieces finally joining together. Tyler couldn't accept that. He refused. After everything they had survived, after every mile, every storm, every nightmare, he wasn't about to lose her here. Not without a fight. Amadii. His voice echoed through the chamber. For a brief moment, her hand stopped moving. A tiny hesitation. A tiny crack. Hope. Tyler immediately stepped forward. Look at me. The woman in white remained calm, patient, watching, waiting. Tyler grabbed Maddie's shoulders. You know who you are. Maddie's eyes flickered. For a second, Tyler saw her. The real Maddie, still trapped somewhere inside, still fighting. Then another expression crossed her face. Confusion, pain, fear, thousands of emotions, thousands of memories, none of them hers. The passenger had filled her mind with countless lives, countless deaths, countless roads, and the weight of those memories was crushing her. Tyler realized something horrible. Maddie wasn't becoming the passenger. The passenger was becoming Maddie. The chamber darkened. Candles flickered violently. The pale figures surrounding them began moving. Slowly, silently, drawing closer. Hundreds of faces. Hundreds of empty eyes. Watching the final stage of the ritual. Walter looked terrified, more terrified than Tyler had ever seen him. Then suddenly, the old man stepped forward. No, everyone turned toward him, even the woman in white. Walter's hands shook, his voice trembled, but for the first time in 20 years, he looked determined. This ends with me. The chamber fell silent. The woman smiled. Does it? Walter nodded slowly. You chose me first. The smile disappeared. For the first time, the passenger looked interested. Walter continued. 20 years ago, you marked me. You wanted me. You almost had me. His eyes filled with guilt. But someone else took my place. Tyler finally understood. The old man's greatest secret. The burden he had carried for decades. Walter had escaped, but another victim had suffered because of it. Another innocent person had become part of the passenger. The guilt had never left him. Not for one day. Not for one night. Not for one moment. And now he intended to fix it. Walter walked toward the black stone altar, toward the woman in white, toward the passenger itself. The pale figures parted, making room. Watching, the woman tilted her head. You would offer yourself now. Walter nodded. Take me. The chamber trembled again. Tyler immediately stepped forward. No, but Walter raised a hand, stopping him. The old man smiled sadly. For the first time, he looked peaceful. I've been running for 20 years. His eyes moved toward Maddie. I won't run anymore. The woman studied him carefully, then slowly shook her head. No. The answer stunned everyone. Walter frowned. What? The passenger stepped closer. You misunderstand. For the first time, There was genuine emotion in her voice. Sadness, ancient sadness. You were never the one I wanted. The room went silent. Walter's face drained of color. The woman turned toward Maddie, then spoke the words that changed everything. She was. Tyler felt cold. From the very beginning. From the accident. From the moment they stopped. The passenger hadn't chosen them both. It had chosen Maddie. Everything else had simply been part of the journey, part of the preparation, part of the road. The woman gently touched Maddie's forehead. Instantly, the chamber exploded with light. Memories flooded the room. Not images, experiences. Thousands of them. Tyler suddenly saw impossible things. Different highways, different decades, different victims. A truck driver in the 1950s, a young couple in the 1970s, a family in the 1980s, travelers, runaways, dreamers, lost souls, all encountering the same road, all encountering the same passenger, all becoming part of something larger. The visions moved faster. Hundreds, thousands, endless lives, endless roads. Then Tyler saw the truth. The passenger wasn't hunting people. Not exactly. It was lonely, terribly lonely. Every victim became part of its consciousness, part of its existence, part of its memory. The collected souls weren't prisoners. They were passengers, traveling forever. Together, the realization horrified him because it almost sounded beautiful. And that's what made it dangerous. Maddie's eyes opened. For a moment, they seemed filled with stars. Thousands of memories moving behind them. Then she looked at Tyler, really looked at him. The real Maddie, the last remaining piece. Tears filled her eyes. Tyler, his heart nearly stopped. She was still there. Somehow, somewhere. Maddie, she smiled weakly. The genuine smile, not the passenger's. Then she whispered, "I'm tired." The words shattered him, because he understood. She had been fighting this entire time. Every voice, every memory, every nightmare. Alone, the passenger wasn't forcing her anymore. It was overwhelming her, drowning her, and she couldn't hold on much longer. Then something unexpected happened. The pale figures surrounding the chamber began changing. One by one, their expressions shifted, their empty eyes filled with awareness. The passengers were waking up, not physically, emotionally. Memories returned. Humanity returned. The collection was breaking apart. The passenger noticed immediately. For the first time, it looked afraid. The woman stepped backward, confused, uncertain. The chamber shook violently. Cracks appeared across the floor, across the walls, across the black altar. Walter stared in disbelief. What is happening? Tyler realized it first. The answer was Maddie. She wasn't accepting the passenger. She was changing it. Every memory, every emotion, Every soul, the humanity inside her, was spreading through the collection. The passengers remembered who they were, and the passenger was losing control. The woman screamed. The sound shook the chamber, not with rage, with fear, ancient fear. The pale figures began disappearing, not dying, leaving, thousands of trapped souls finally breaking free. The names carved into the walls started fading, one after another. The collection was collapsing. The road was ending. The cycle was ending. Everything was ending. The woman reached toward Maddie desperately, but Maddie stepped backward, then looked toward Tyler and smiled one final time. The real smile, the smile he loved, the smile he would remember forever. I found the exit. Tears filled Tyler's eyes. What? Maddie looked around the collapsing chamber, at the fading passengers, at the disappearing names, at the woman in white. Then she answered softly. For all of us, the light exploded outward, brighter than the sun, brighter than lightning, brighter than anything human eyes were meant to see. The chamber vanished. The altar vanished. The passengers vanished. Everything vanished. Only light remained. Then, silence. Tyler opened his eyes. Morning sunlight touched his face. Birds sang nearby. Wind moved through trees. Normal wind. Normal trees. Normal sunlight. For a moment, he couldn't understand what had happened. Then he realized he was lying beside the highway. The same highway. The same road. Yet everything felt different. Peaceful. The church was gone. The chamber was gone. The storm was gone. Walter sat nearby, alive, exhausted, but alive. Tyler immediately looked around, searching, hopping, praying. Maddie, no answer. Walter lowered his head. The silence told him everything. Months later, life slowly returned to normal. Tyler left the road behind, left the mountains behind, left the nightmares behind. At least he tried to. But some memories never fade, especially the final ones, especially her smile. One evening, nearly a year later, Tyler stopped